I'd like to call the March 27th, 2025 meeting of the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission to order.
Okay, we'll start with a roll call. Duncan Campbell.
Here.
Karen Duffy.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Jeremy Hackard.
Here.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Here.
Reynald Cross.
Here.
Sam DeSolar.
Here.
Melanie Dusner. Elizabeth Mitchell. Daniel Schlegel. We have quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to go over the minutes?
Yep.
I will entertain a motion on the minutes.
Move a motion to approve meeting notes from the last hearing.
Second.
Okay, and the second was you.
Sure. Absolutely fine.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to approve and second the meeting minutes from March 13th. We'll take a roll call voting members. Jack Baker.
Yes.
Jeremy Hackard.
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Yes.
Renard Cross.
Yes.
Sam DeSolar.
Yes.
5 yes votes. Minutes are approved.
All right. If I could prevail upon you to read our procedural and
Sure.
thank you.
So this is the procedure for certificates of appropriateness and demolition delays. For each item, the Historic Preservation Program Manager will first present a staff report. We will then hear if the petitioner has any additional information, followed by a round of questions from each commissioner. We ask that petitioners, the public, and commissioners refrain from speaking until addressed by the chair, unless the question is directly addressed to them. If a member of the public or a petitioner wishes to comment, please raise your hand until recognized by the chair. Once a motion is made, we will then open up discussion of the item for members of the commission. We encourage all commissioners, petitioners, and members of the public to be civil and respectful at all times.
Thank you. We'll move on to our first COA.
All right. First COA 2513 for 1122 South Rogers Street in the McDowell Gardens Historic District. 1122 South Rogers is a single-story California bungalow with a detached garage built in 1964. The Indiana Department of Historic Preservation and Archaeology surveyors listed the building as notable for its high degree of integrity and distinctive craftsman features such as exposed rafter tails and original windows and doors. Broadly speaking, the intention is to install PV solar panels on the furthest east roof of the house and on the west-facing roof of the garage. A solar power battery, a new electrical panel, and to remove the dying tree on the east side of the house, and to cut a few limbs off of the large silver maple on the south side of the house to allow more sunlight to reach the PV panels on the house. Just a second. 8,910 watt solar array to be installed. Half of the panels will be installed on the east-facing garage roof. The other half would be installed on the south-facing easternmost section of the house roof. Storage 10,000 watts, 200 amp service upgrade, removal of large dying silver maple in front of east side of the house that can cast shade on house-mounted PV panels, and cutting 5 branches from the sprawling silver maple on the south side of the house that would increase direct sunlight to reach the mounted PV panels. So here indicated where limbs would be removed from the remaining tree, as well as placement of the solar panel on the house and placement on the garage. The staff approves COA 2513. The petitioner intends to install the PV panels at the same pitch of the house and garage roofs. The asphalt shingle roof is not in and of itself a significant architectural feature of the house, so damage to architecturally significant features is not a concern. Comment from the District Design Review Committee recommend approval of the plan, which is similar to other installations nearby in the district.
Any comments on this one?
Oh, 2 people are in the waiting room. we can just ask if there's any comments from the petitioners or from
No, there's
online.
from the commissioners from,
Mhm.
let's move on to the next one then.
Okay. Mhm. All right. Next item, 11, COA 2514 for 1100 East Second Street in the Elm Heights Historic District. The petitioner is Apex Home Services. This is built in 1903. 1100 East Second Street is a slightly altered American four-square with classical details. The house sits on a corner lot with the west elevation facing Hawthorne Drive. We are updating the kitchen interior at 1100 East Second Street. As part of the renovation, we are adding a new range hood above the stove. The unit will vent exhaust from the kitchen to the exterior of the home. This will require installing a termination on the exterior of the home for the range hood to connect to. We are proposing installing an Imperial 6-inch galvanized steel R2 exhaust vent hood. We are proposing to paint the vent hood termination to match the exterior color of the home. It will be mounted near the entry door on Hawthorne Drive, on the Hawthorne Drive side of the home. Pictures of the vent and the home are included. The yellow square on the home photographs indicates the purported location of the vent termination. Staff approved COA 2514. The proposed vent hood would be installed in an inconspicuous location near the existing exterior mechanical equipment and would not distract from or impact significant architectural features. The feature is small, and the COA proposes painting the vent hood the same color as the house and existing mechanical equipment. Currently, the site of installation is partially screened by a bush, and the Elm Heights Design Review Committee has not offered any objections to this proposal.
Any comments, questions? All right, let's move on.
Okay. Okay, next, commission review. COA 2515 for 11, yes.
Skipping over because the petitioners aren't here.
Which one? The one that was,
Are any of these petitioners here?
well,
The first
there
two.
was one that was withdrawn.
Right, that's going to be the second one that was under staff review, or sorry, commission review.
Those are staff review.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
2 and 2 this time.
so is the petitioner here for the first COA, which
Yes.
is,
This is-
can I
Yes.
have up on screen?
Mhm.
Sir, welcome. Petitioner indicated he was present.
All right. And,
You want, oh,
Do your report
oh,
for the next one.
for,
so I think
Are you
we
looking
went
for-
through this one already, yeah?
right, yes,
So we can go on to the next COA, the commission review one?
if you guys are ready.
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Mhm. Okay. COA 2515, petitioner is Tyler Martin. The address is 1104 North Grant in the Garden Hill Historic District. On November 14th, 2024, the Historic Preservation Commission voted to approve the demolition of a non-contributing building at 1104 North Grant. Subsequently, the owner submitted a petition for a new build for the December 12th meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission, which was withdrawn when it did not receive a recommendation. The owner of the lot has communicated with the District Design Review Committee in the following months to come up with a new design to meet district guidelines. The request is for the construction of a new two-story house. The proposal calls for the use of asphalt shingle roofing, 7-inch reveal LP siding, double-hung vinyl windows, and painted wooden posts and brackets.
So, is that the,
No, I'm gonna get to the
More
staff
things. Okay.
recommendation, yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Okay. The staff recommends approval of COA 2515. And this is new construction, so there's a long list I'm going to read through. Okay. Materials. The proposed materials include LP siding, provided it does not have imitation grain, brick veneer, asphalt roof shingles, and painted wood architectural details. These are consistent with district guidelines. Setback. The 30-foot front setback matches the neighboring house and other houses on the block. Likewise, the 15-foot setback matches the nearby buildings on Grant. Being the same height as neighboring buildings on the block, it can be located as close to them as they are to each other. Entry. The one-story front entry porch with tapered posts reflects similar porches found on contributing buildings throughout the district. The addition of a side entrance on Grant contributes to the pattern of fenestration typical on the buildings in the district and relates the building to its surrounding neighborhood context. Height. Two-story buildings are unusual in Garden Hill, and generally the construction of a new building should fall within the range set by the highest and lowest contiguous buildings on the block if the block has uniform heights. Sitting on the corner of 15th Street with two buildings directly east of the proposed construction approximately 25 feet high. While this design presents a 26-foot, 1.8-inch ridge height, this is fairly close to the neighboring contiguous buildings on the block. Outline. The dual gabled front entrance and full-width single-story porch on the south elevation match outlines recommended in the district guidelines. On the western elevation facing Grant, a second-story dormer breaks up the building's long orientation. Mass. The 24 by 46 foot footprint is similar in site coverage to neighboring buildings on the 400 block of East 15th Street and the 1100 block of North Grant Street. And with height considered, the overall mass is similar to neighboring buildings on the 15th Street block. Fenestration. The regular fenestration patterns presented on the street-facing facades are fairly typical of buildings in the district. The use of double-hung windows is consistent with many surrounding historic buildings and the new build's stylistic influences. While the submitted plan is large by standards of the district, its height, mass, and footprint fit into the context of the block, and the proposed design elements fit district guidelines and reference architectural features found on historic buildings in the district. Both street-facing facades convey a similar sense of entry to that which is expressed by the surrounding district. I did receive a neighborhood comment on this new design that was resubmitted. 1104 North Grant is missing something on the west side, but the front of the house looks good. The meeting went well. Tyler also said that they would replace the old trees they had cut to build. They would have to cut to build. There are 3 of them. I wish I could be more specific about the west side. That is the side facing Grant, the longer one. It just looks plain, but it's a lot better than it looked before, so no real complaints.
all right.
So if the petitioner is present?
Sure, are you present? Are you both, there's 2 of you that are saying you're present. Are you for a different case?
I'm the first one, the 1122.
South Rogers.
South Rogers. That was the staff approval.
Okay,
So you're good to
so
go.
you actually don't need to be here.
Oh, I'm done.
You're good. You're good to
It
go.
all happened so fast.
It's like getting a shot.
I'm this one.
Oh, good, good. So do you have anything to add to what Noah said about your project?
Not really. We cut it by 40% in length based off of the feedback we got last time, and tried to make some adjustments to the roof line and front porch, added everything that you just heard from Noah. But yeah, we had a good meeting, I feel like, with the neighborhood, and tried to acquiesce to everything, all the feedback we got. That's about all. They won't be black windows either. That was a rough draft. The other picture's probably a little more accurate to what we had planned.
I don't know that this district reviews color, so I don't think
Okay, great.
Never cost too much. Questions? Duncan, you got any questions?
I do not.
Ernesto, you got any questions? Jack, any questions?
No questions.
Jeremy, questions?
No.
Karen? Renard?
Just one, in terms of materials, is there a restriction in the guidelines for the district about imitation grain? On the LP siding, it's in the materials section. It says provided it does not have imitation.
Right,
Yeah.
saying no
Not
imitating,
no
no products
imitation.
imitating the grain of which be used.
Oh, and that's in their guidelines?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a copy where you can actually read the dimensions on the plans?
I had sent a separate copy out with the packet.
It's in the email, it's a separate,
Okay.
it's a separate attachment.
It unfortunately just doesn't translate well to the size of a
And-
Word doc.
I can,
There you go.
Thanks. A little bit better, but fine. And
are you looking at heights? Is that what you want to look at?
no, just the dimensions overall. It'd be nice to have a look at it. Okay, that's it. No, I'm good. This one is better. Thanks.
All right, who did I miss? Did Melody, I get you?
No questions.
Okay, no questions. I had a question for the petitioner, two questions. One, LP siding, this is a Louisiana Pacific product. It looks like and you're saying it's a lap siding. The lap siding on LP, on the Louisiana Pacific site, says it's only available in cedar grain. So do you have an alternate material?
We can
That
get
you
it
would-
smooth.
That's,
We
sorry,
can get that LP in smooth.
you can? Okay, that's just what I was reading on. If you can get it in smooth.
Yeah, it's a special order product, but you can get it. It takes like a week.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
No worries. And you are, sir?
I'm Ernest. I'm Tyler's partner.
I'm Sam.
That's what you're saying.
I had one other question. Would you bring up the site plan from the civil engineer? So if you look at the back of the property, you have a sidewalk leading up to the middle of that rear facade, right?
Correct.
And if you look at, would you go to the elevations that they gave and show what the rear facade is? So my understanding is the rear facade is the one in the lower right corner. So you have a sidewalk dead ending on the middle of a blank elevation.
Yes, I think that is a mistake from Smith Design, which is very easy. I mean, basically we just wrap to the front facade or west facade. But let me pull it up and make sure that, yeah, he pulled the foundation print and didn't look closely enough at where the porch entrances actually were. But that driveway would go to the west facade, that sidewalk.
So the sidewalk goes from the parking area
Correct, to the west.
straight to the west?
Correct, because I think that's the only other entrance besides the south.
So, okay. All right. All right, I had another question. What was my one other question? This will come back to me. At this point, do we have any additional comments from the neighborhood?
If we can check if there's anybody from the neighborhood
Anybody
present.
from the public? Okay. What's your name, sir?
Phil Worthington, Garden Hill. Yes, we met with Tyler and I think he did a really good job on the front. Appreciate that. I wish to God it wasn't 5 bedroom. I thought you said it was 3. Really, I wish a lot of things. I wish the city didn't allow them anymore. At one point they had gotten rid of them for Garden Hill, which was just a core neighborhood downtown in St. I think is what it was. And I said to Tyler, they've been a disaster in terms of nuisance and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I think the front looks so much better, so I'm very pleased with that. I said to Tyler when we met with him, I wish HBC would just, I don't know if he's amenable to this on the west side. Well, Kerry, we disagree on this, but I was just hoping you'd allow him to just plant evergreens, you know, on the west side there, that embankment. And I think he had mostly just some windows or something. I think you made him put an entryway there. I think it would be a lot easier for him.
So when you say the west side,
The west side of the house facing Grant.
that's that one with all the windows and stuff on it.
Well, it has another entryway.
Yeah.
Already.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same
bottom,
one.
it-
Right, that's not showing up under the closed
Yeah,
captioning here,
yeah.
but there's another door under that gable.
You know, native plants and evergreen trees and my bottom line, as I said to Tyler, to try to push all activity to the front of the house. So when the boom speakers start, and they will, they're facing south. This is my mentality up there. This is someone who's lived there for over 40 years. And I know what's gonna happen here. Tyler may be an exemplary landlord, but you gotta keep those beds filled. That's the bottom line. So, but you're wanting him to do this, so I'm just trying to limit activity on that side of the house. I don't know if he's amenable. I think it'd be cheaper, I think, for him to do that. That's my 2 cents, but I surely appreciate what he's done with the front.
Thank you. All right. I think we're at that point where we can do no other comments from the public or anybody online.
We do have Chris Sturbaum, Chan Hyuk Lee, Xavier Gray, members of the public online.
If any of you have a comment on this proposal, would you please raise your hand?
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
All right. I think at this point we can entertain a motion.
I'll move to deny. This is COA 2515.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it so we can talk.
All right. We have a motion on the table and it's been seconded. Want to talk through why you want to bring it down?
It's come a long way, and I'm pleased with that and with the documentation that's being shown. We can actually see what they would get there. I've driven the neighborhood a number of times now, and I'm always saddened to see what's happening to it. It's transitioning from a neighborhood to a commercial development. And this is not historic preservation. This is allowing new construction. And we're actually doing something that the Plan Commission can't do. They can't really talk about windows and doors and windows and that sort of thing, where we can fill that in, and we can ask for those things in terms of the compliance with the way the neighborhood looks or tends. This neighborhood is tending to be a commercial neighborhood rather than the original neighborhood. There are a number of houses that are original to that neighborhood. And I can't say that this fits with the houses that I saw there. That's why I will vote no on the project. Sizing, can't argue with the sizing. It's about 1,000 square feet per level. It's about 2,000 square foot house. 46 by 24, something like that, I think. I'm close. And the look isn't bad for the kind of house it is, but in my mind, it's not historic preservation.
Anybody else want to address this? Jeremy?
I would agree with Jack that I don't think it matches a lot of the historic homes in the district and looking around at those. It matches a couple of the newer houses that are kind of outside of the district a little bit, but they're within the same blocks. So yeah, I would agree with Jack's observation on that.
Anybody else have comments? Like you might have one.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
You want to think about it?
Yeah, yeah.
So can you have anything?
Well, the issue with new construction, which is never gonna be historic preservation, is whether there's compatibility or adequate compatibility. And I agree with Jack that the neighborhood is radically changed, which changes the concept of compatibility for me. So, you know, in terms of how porches are arranged and the roof lines are, and so on, you know, there's compatibility with lots of structures across the city. Most of the houses I saw in this neighborhood that are remaining are single-story, front-facing bungalows for the most part. They're few and far between though, and there's some pretty nasty intervening multifamily stuff. Catty corner from this site included, stuff that's been there for 45, 55 years. I suspect this neighborhood is gonna continue to go this way to the extent that you can acquire property in it. But in compatibility terms, I don't really have a lot of objection to it. It's a whole lot better than most of the multifamily stuff that's been put in there. And I'm not sure what we're protecting here anymore, honestly. I hate to say that, but you know, my preference would have been to not tear this house down, but it's already been so significantly altered that preservation of it would be a complete redo. It'd probably cost almost as much as building this new house. I hear the neighborhood talking about 5-bedroom apartments, but you know, the days from the 1980 master plan are gone. I mean, we've overridden just about all those good ideas in the meantime. Not we, you and me, but
No, I know it. I know it.
and we can't do anything about that, about what's permitted. And in general, also, Jack, I think there's an issue about, as these places change, we've been consistent in our approval of enlarging existing structures as well. It's not all great stuff, but keeping these neighborhoods vital has somehow required enlarging the spaces. People want more bedrooms, they want garages, they want, you know, and so we've approved dozens of them in core neighborhoods. And even though this is new construction, it's really kind of the same thing. You know, and I'm impressed that the owner has collaborated with the neighborhood and tried to do something that's more compatible. Could it be more compatible? Yeah, it could. But I'm not inclined to send him back to do it again.
Ernesto, you have anything?
Yeah, yes, I agree with Duncan. I don't know what else is left there to compare. One comment that I do have, and I should have brought this up earlier as a question. I noticed that the drawings are showing, looks like a slab on grade. Is that the case? Or is this gonna be a crawl space?
It's fairly level grade once you get up past the
It'll be a
where
crawl
it really
space.
actually sits.
But it will be a crawl space.
More likely, yes, split face crawl space.
It's just on the drawings and renderings.
It reads like a slab on
It
grade.
just looks like a slab on grade, and if you were to do this,
Do you have a preference? I'm
Yes.
assuming crawl space is the preference.
Yes.
Being in the same.
yes, I mean, it would be good for you guys to be able to have access to plumbing and all that. as opposed to a slab on grade. That's my observation.
We're very flexible on
Yeah,
foundation
I
type.
think that would be good for you guys for maintenance.
It would
and
look better.
And it would look better for sure.
It would be taller.
Yes, which at this point, it's okay.
All right. I think we're jumping out of the back and forth a
I'm
little
done.
bit. I'm gonna make an exception. I'm gonna ask that, there's one other public comment. If you all are all right with it, we can hear. And Bernard, are you ready to comment? Who's the public commentator?
Chris Sturbaum, I
Ah.
asked him to unmute.
Chris? You could unmute. Let's hear what you have to say. We'll give him another
Yeah,
little bit. When he unmutes, I've got a.
sure, I'm chatting with him.
So I hear a lot of what my fellow commissioners are saying. I think this proposal has done quite a lot to comply with guidelines. I think it does really well on setbacks. It does the things in the language of the house. It's very arts and crafts. It feels weird to me, and I think what you were talking about, it feels like you're taking an arts and crafts house and putting it on a ranch slab. So I'm really glad to hear that you're talking about putting it on a crawl, because that's one of the places I don't feel it quite meets the guidelines, because when you're talking about context, and I think these guidelines are actually fairly well written in terms of what you're looking for in terms of context, you're looking at adjacent contributing properties. So the house next door to the east and the next one to the east aren't contributing properties. So all the contributing properties that I see are single story or story and a half. And all the ones that aren't contributing are 2 stories, or the ones that are across the way, which aren't even in the district, are 2 stories, and they're particularly horrible. So I am concerned about the height and the mass of this. I'm not concerned about the footprint. I think the arrangement of entrances you've done and if you are willing to boost up the porch, I think that'll work. But the things I am concerned about are, I want to see a site plan that actually matches what you got going on. And the height for me is problematic. I think it's an incredibly well-detailed building, and I'm really happy you went and talked to the neighborhood. But I would like to see it bumped up, and I am very concerned about the height of this thing. Has Chris been able to unmute himself?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
All right, Chris, what do you have?
Oh, I liked what Duncan said, and I want to say that what you're protecting is the overall character of this neighborhood. And it's really a privilege to be able to do this fine line design control. And we could have seen such a worse project without these kind of guidelines. So I think understanding the role in each neighborhood is different. And this is a little bit of an odd one, but keeping the character of the neighborhood is the job. And I think we can get a little too caught up on some of these details, and I would suggest you tell this builder he's done a nice job of listening and trying, and go ahead, do a good job of executing this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, anyone else? Did I miss anybody?
I'm in the unique position of being torn.
Sorry?
I said I'm in the unique position of being torn. Usually I am easily on one side or the other. But I've heard the comments and I'm still troubled. There was one issue that I had before, and I think you kind of cemented it in my mind in the form of a question. I had a difficulty between Noah's comments about mass and your comments about the typical houses in the neighborhood being single story or story and a half.
that's the majority of them. There are a couple of two-story houses in the neighborhood that are contributing. There's one immediately to the north, that's a
Right.
ranch, that's contributing.
But my memory of the neighborhood is similar to what you described. Single story and a half. To have a, 2,300 square foot two-story house almost seems to be atypical for this neighborhood. And I was just trying to figure out how Noah kind of.
I can show my work if you'd like.
I just talk me through it.
Sure. So footprint, each floor is approximately 1,000 square feet. That's fairly similar to the surrounding contributing buildings. That context. A couple of the non-contributing buildings on the block, they go a lot larger than that. That's, not really recommended. Going to the section in the guidelines on height. The language here about height, generally the height of a new building should fall within a range set by the highest and lowest contiguous buildings if the block has uniform heights. Uncharacteristically, high or low buildings should not be considered when determining this range. So both of the buildings to the east are approximately this height. Both of those buildings are non-contributing. To Sam's point, the context has to take into account contributing buildings. That is the context. And there are a lot of places in these district guidelines that reference that. And that was one of my concerns with the previous design that had a much larger mass. It was 40 feet further back.
Let me stop
Yes.
you there. Could you comment with regards to the contributing buildings? How does this building compare to the contributing buildings?
Sure. I'd say among the contributing buildings in the district, there are several that are 2 stories and several more that are 1.5 stories. The one to the north of this building on the same block is kind of 1.5 story.
Yes, you want to bring that one up? I think that's worth looking at. Because that one's up on the hill. It's got an exposed basement.
Yeah. Okay, so, screen share, yes. Okay, so this is the block of Grant. This is the building to the north on that block. Most of the other ones on this block are 1 story, so taking you down to, this is the lot where the new construction is being proposed.
Okay.
Okay, so.
I'm mixing up my cases then. I'm thinking of the one on Lincoln that was withdrawn,
Right.
and the one to the house to the north on that is up in the hill. Okay.
That had a bit of a steeper slope than this one did.
Yeah. Okay. That's my bad. But this is actually very helpful because the immediate context, you're getting a lot of single story, story and a half, and then you go to the east, you get the 2 non-contributing 2 stories. That's those guys right there. And then the next building that contributes is that little short green guy. That's a single story. And then that gorgeous house on the corner, which is story and a half, maybe a story probably.
It's just a huge attic, it looks like.
It's a great porch.
Right, so I'm seeing within the immediate vicinity 2-story houses which are non-contributing. And every other house that is there contributing or non-contributing single-story. So again, I'm trying to square the circle. How is this mass appropriate under the guidelines that constrain us. And I suspect those single-story structures are somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 square feet, probably.
Right.
You're putting a 2,300 square foot two-story structure on a corner lot in this neighborhood. I
do think one of the things that mitigates that is it's on the lower end of the slope. And some of the higher two-story ones a block over that are contributing are on higher ground. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there are, as Noah said, there are fewer story and a half. There's only a few double stories, and I think a large part of the ones in the neighborhood, and correct me if I'm wrong, are the contributing are single stories.
Right. A couple of the notable ones are 2-story. Most of the contributing ones are single story.
Okay. Anybody has any other comments? We have
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just think, from time to time, we need to draw the line in the sand. It'll be stepped over, but we have to say, we are a historic preservation commission. With all that's said tonight, I appreciate everything that was said by all the commissioners and the developer. But I disagree with some, I agree with others, but I think the primary for me is to be true to the neighborhood of contributing houses. And we said that those are single story and story and a half. So I think I still find this building inappropriate for the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I think we got to call a vote on this one. A yes vote means we're turning them down.
Okay.
May
No,
I?
I'm
May I
sorry.
ask-
Oh, yes.
Just from the legal department, may I ask Jack to clarify, in terms of the criteria for compatibility, that there are 11 listed in our local code. And do you know which, whether it's height, proportion, I mean, I could read them for you. Do you have specific criteria that you want in the record that you do not believe that it meets?
Massing of this house compared with massing of what I'll call the original houses in the neighborhood, smaller contributing houses.
Okay, so just for the record, I just want to make sure that we're clear on what
Fair
the
enough.
factors are. So is the height a problem?
Yes.
Is proportion of the building's front facade? That is the relationship of the width of the building to the height of the front elevation needs to be visually compatible with other buildings.
Yes, it's a height.
So it's
Height
length
compared to
and
the
height.
contributing buildings in the neighborhood.
What about relationships of solids to voids?
I'm sorry, say again?
Relationship of solids to voids in the front facades? The relationship of solids to voids in the front facade?
No.
That's referring to administration.
Is that, yeah, I just want to make sure that we have a clear record. Roof shapes, rhythm of instruments.
So if, why don't you say if there are any additional things that she hasn't covered,
Well, let me.
so we don't have to go through the whole
sort
laundry
of
list.
go through it, and I can give you the sort of the yays and nays on this. This design is not, I think, is not relevant to the contributing houses in the neighborhood. It's not a bad design in itself, but elsewhere. But in this neighborhood, I think looking at the contributing houses, and as we've described them, a single story, story and a half, this does not align with the look of those houses, the massing of those houses, and the actual design of those houses. It's quite different. It aligns with the other commercial, what I call the commercial houses in the neighborhood. but I'm not sure that we should be looking at those as a commission.
We shouldn't. It's in the guidelines. We don't use those as context. So what I'm hearing from you is height and massing
Yes.
are the issues.
Those would be my prime issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think at this point, unless we have to vote on the motion on the table.
So to clarify, the motion is a no. So in this case, yes is a no.
Yes is to deny.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, so we've talked about the motion on the table to deny. It's been moved and seconded. We'll go through voting members. Jack Baker,
Yes.
Jeremy Hacker,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
No.
Reynard Cross,
Yes.
Sam DeSolar,
No.
Melanie Dusner.
No.
We have a split vote, 3 yes, 3 no, 0 abstain.
That means it fails.
All right. So we could table another motion. I would ask that if the petitioner is willing to adjust the height of the porch and staff is willing to do a staff approval on the site plan issue, make sure that the sidewalk goes where the sidewalk needs to go.
Crawl space.
And if the petitioner is willing to deal with that, I will make a motion to approve it with those amendments.
So this would be for a higher porch and for space for a crawl space?
Well, the higher porch and space for the crawl
Right,
space,
that's-
they're already
those are
saying they're
part and
doing
parcel.
it. It's
Yes.
the way it,
Mm-hmm.
we're not means and methods, it's just how it looks on the
Mhm.
outside.
But what you're talking about is a foundation that shows.
Yes,
Yes, a crawl space.
because right now what I'm seeing is the siding goes all the way down to grade.
Yeah.
And you need to expose some kind of split face or limestone or whatever. I think I'd be willing to do that as a staff approval too, but I'll take a straw poll and
Can I comment?
please do.
It feels like the things that we're asking them to revise is plenty enough for them to resubmit and for us to look at that, as opposed to grant an approval without knowing exactly what's gonna happen.
So you want a motion to table?
Yes, don't you? I
I
mean,
would-
wouldn't you like to see exactly what's gonna happen as opposed to leave it out there?
I mean, I have enough faith in these petitioners that I'm willing to do it as a staff approval.
So somebody would look at it, just not necessarily us.
And I don't
Okay.
necessarily see the need for it to come back to commission.
I hear you.
I think no one
So
knows.
I
what-
would have to check with Margie about that because technically staff is not authorized to approve new construction.
Oh,
So-
well, then I guess we do have to either say it's all right. I mean,
Well, if it's going to be tabled, there should be specific reasons for why it would be tabled.
and the only reason I want to table it, the only reason I would like to see something is I want to see it. I want to see that porch expressed, and I want to know where your sidewalk's going. I have faith that you're going to do that.
The sidewalk does show in that rendering, but not in the site plan. I can point that out.
Yeah, I mean, but the rendering also doesn't show the backyard, it doesn't show the parking lot, it doesn't show the connection. So I just want to know what's going on where.
Why don't we just table it, come back in 2 weeks and show us what the revisions are?
We deal with the 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely.
Then all right, I will motion to table, and then the petitioner can come.
You want to table or forward?
Sorry,
Continue it to the next.
that's the thing,
Continue
sorry,
Forward
I
to the
keep,
next meeting, you don't have to
I
have a
keep,
motion to open it back up.
Yeah.
But if you table it, you gotta have a motion. to
Yeah,
open
Could
it
I,
back up.
so to be clear, you would like to see in 2 weeks or whenever the next meeting is, a crawl space, a porch that expresses upwards, and then a site plan that's accurate? Would that,
site plan is accurate. I would like to see the porch expressed. How you make that happen, we have no purview under what happens on the inside of the building. So generally it happens because of a basement or a crawl space, but
but I just want to be clear on the things that you are wanting to specifically see so that we, really capture that
I
in our
hear that.
changes.
I'm also happy to meet with petitioners to chat if you would like to chat. So put that out there too.
May I comment?
Please do.
All of that's fine, but it's not paying any attention to massing and height.
I hear that. I acknowledge that. Renard, you have it.
Oh, I was just trying to figure out if we would not raise the height of the house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
That's nothing.
So is it a motion to continue?
I'm a motion to continue.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to continue COA 2515 to the next HPC meeting. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Again, a yes vote would be to table it to the next, or to continue.
Forward.
Sorry, I have a question about the motion.
Yes.
What will be the consequence of this motion being passed?
We're going to see them again in 2 weeks,
Right.
and they are going to modify these documents to reflect what we have requested. If you would like to meet with the petitioners with me, you're more than welcome, but nobody else is welcome because then we'll be over that.
Sure, time and place.
Okay. Duncan?
So, in response to Jack's comment, I would like to see what they can do to bring the roof line down. I think you can get a 2-story building here, like, bedrooms upstairs with them, and make the building lower.
I wouldn't complain at all about that.
And at least that's responding to,
Mhm.
one of the primary complaints. I would like to see it closer to a 1.5-story building, personally.
That might mean some cathedrals as opposed to some trusses.
It is possible.
I'm just saying, if they're gonna be revising, that's something I'd like to see at least offered.
So one of the issues with it being on this corner lot within this MS zone is because of the setbacks on the 2 fronts. It really allows for a very skinny house that doesn't allow as well for a 1.5-story plan. It could definitely be done, there's just a lot more wasted space because it's so narrow, given that the trusses are running in the short direction.
Yeah.
In terms of a stick framed 1.5-story. Definitely open to exploring that. It's just the downside is the footprint would naturally grow in order because of this lost second story square footage in my mind.
I don't think that's what Duncan is saying. He's talking about, so how can you take this?
Lowering the pitch and also maybe dropping this first story to a 8-foot wall instead of a 9. That's my initial thoughts, to lower the ceiling or the roof peak. Specifically, is that what you're kind of thinking, Duncan? Keeping it a 2-story but lowering the pitch to lower the
I think
mass
you could alter the roof line to still allow bedrooms upstairs.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna do it for you,
Yeah.
but I think it could be done. And
I will be happy to meet with you guys if you want.
Do we have any other commentary before we vote on this motion? And we have a second, do we?
We did have
Thank
a
you.
second. May I have clarification, though, this is a motion to continue
Mhm.
this item to the next meeting?
It is.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and take that vote on the motion to continue. Jack Baker,
Yes?
Jeremy Hackard.
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Renard Cross.
Yes.
Sam DeSoler.
Yes.
Melanie Dusner.
Yes.
Okay, that passes with 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Get in touch with Noah and you can see what we can talk about.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, have a good night.
See you later.
Now, next item on the agenda, I want to make sure that the petitioner or somebody representing the petitioner is present because she had contacted me saying that she would like this item to be continued until she can come up with a new plan. But it's still in the PowerPoint and the packet in case she changed her mind. So is there anybody present to represent the petitioner here?
We do have a person.
Which one was it?
Brandon Sturgis.
So nobody is here for this item?
And we are required to have the petitioner present, or do we not?
Right. Yes, it is commission review.
Alright.
Okay, so,
The clock on that one is okay, isn't it?
well, we were available to hear it, so the clock's not gonna run out. It would be if the commission is unable to meet to hear it.
I mean,
Right.
within the scope of the next meeting, it will not.
No,
Okay.
and I mean, the 30-day clock is not going to run out.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay.
He was here for 2414, which did.
Oh, 2514 passed.
I'll let him know.
Okay. Violations. So this is catching up on some of the past violations, revisiting some of these sites and talking about some of the new ones as well. I'm happy to say that most of the violations from between 2020 and 2023 have been resolved. I can talk about some of these in more detail if you'd like. A couple of them to highlight here, which I will bring up in some subsequent slides. Let's see. Where are the porch columns on here?
It's Valentine 620.
Valentine 620. That should be on here.
See 507, but
Yeah, okay. Well, we do have. Okay. Going over the ones of these that are still open at this point. 605 South Fest, Willow Terrace apartment building. They had met with us approximately 6 months ago and had received approval for installing a Ludovici Spanish tile roof to replace one that was removed in 2020. From what we had heard from the property owner, it would be approximately 6 months for the tiles to arrive. So that is it's about time to check back in on that. Another outstanding one, a sign in the Greater Restaurant Row Historic District that had not been applied for. That needs to be checked up on as well. Yes.
Is that a staff approval thing, or would that come to us?
That would be a staff approval. Mhm. That one was August 2023. There was another one to highlight here because it's been asked about, 925 North Jackson Street in the Maple Heights Historic District. A asphalt shingle roof was replaced with a standing seam metal roof. Maple Heights was still using its conservation district guidelines at the time, even though it was a historic district. So that falls under the purview of what should be reviewed by the commission. However, there was nothing in the guidelines describing preferences for roof materials. And the design guidelines packet for the neighborhood showed contributing buildings with standing seam metal roofs as well. So it seemed like a case where they would come to us to get probably approval for something that rules didn't exist for. So that was just a somewhat complicated situation.
But they have to come if there's any change in material.
Right.
So it's still,
Mm-hmm.
it's a violation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether there's a guideline or not means more specifically that they have to come, to me, in my mind. So what's the resolution there?
There hasn't been one yet, so they're gonna have to be contacted.
That's a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I mean, what's the request for resolution from our side? Have you requested that they come in for a C of A?
Well, it'll either be for COA or for reversing. I mean, they're gonna get the letter that describes their two options.
A retroactive COA?
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
I know
You're very
those. Keeping in mind that
Okay. Some of the newer ones, 1300 East First Street. This one has been some action has been taken. There were two issues here. One was the installation of an unscreened parking area in the rear that has been screened now with a vertical board fence. Also, however, the original or historic front door had been switched out, and the wrought iron railings on either side of the steps had been removed. The property owner had come back and received a certificate of appropriateness for installing a new wrought iron railing and a 6-panel colonial door with or without 2 top windows of their choice. That part has not been done yet.
But they have the approval to do it.
They have the approval to do it.
What's the timeline on that?
Margie, with the with the timeline for approval for a retroactive COA after a violation be the same as the timeline for approval of an ordinary COA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. What is there a reason why you think it'd be different?
I don't know, except for the fact that it's a violation and that's a way to, keep stalling.
Yeah,
be ungenerous.
and I don't know that I've been particularly involved in this case. Is it, has legal been?
You were present for those meetings.
Which one is this one?
This one is 1300 East First Street. It's a 2-story brick colonial.
They pulled the front door off,
Oh.
and in the process of that,
Mhm.
and they put a parking lot in the back. They're changing a residential to a student rental, and they also removed some original cast iron railing.
I do remember that one. And what was the last contact we had with them?
Last on this issue is when they received the retroactive COA.
Yeah.
Then I've subsequently received an email from the property manager confirming that she would confer with me about choices of railings and doors.
And that was when?
That was shortly after this retroactive COA was received. So that would have been August of last year.
And they haven't done it?
Not yet.
Yeah. So I don't know that the timing changes. I think the timing's.
And when you say the timing, what I'm trying to ask is, after what window of time that there's been a violation, can we say, you need to do something or you will incur some penalties?
Oh, okay, so that's a different question. So the historic preservation code says, and it's really discretionary. So the answer to your question is it's discretionary, it's on a case-by-case basis. So our code related to notices of ordinance violations says that it follows the, let me find the exact language, but we follow the procedures of the hand department. Let me get it. Just a second. This section shall be enforced using personnel and policies designated by the Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development. So I think, and Anna can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that you handle those on a case-by-case basis. I don't think you have a set prescribed time period, right? So, and I think we kind of talked about this before. So prosecution of ordinance violations is something that departments handle for their department, and then the legal department comes in and prosecutors like a prosecutor would for criminal cases. We prosecute these for civil violations. So I think this is a conversation for staff to have in terms of what they think is the appropriate next step.
Yeah. I don't want to fine them or anything. I would like to get the railing back.
Yeah.
And I want to know how to incentivize them to get the railing installed.
Yeah, and so that's something that I think, I think an appropriate next step would be for legal to send a letter that says, hey, by the way, this was the last contact we had with you, haven't heard from you, what's your plan? Just to apply a little pressure.
Yeah.
I think that's the way, and I don't know if, Anna, who's typically been sat in this commission, I don't know if that's something that you and she have already talked about doing, but if not, I think that's appropriate.
Sent her all of the past notices of violations from the past couple of years.
And I think that, we're doing this, for example, I have another attorney who's doing it for sort of Title VI and Title 16 violations, so I think we can work on, you guys flag the ones that you want sort of a letter sent out to, and we can send those letters out.
My grass gets too tall, I get a nice little notice in my mailbox with a fine telling me that if I don't pay the fine increases and all of these really nasty things the city's gonna do to me because my grass is too high. But yet, I do appreciate it. But what I'm trying to say is that the height of my grass seems to be of greater issue to the city than somebody flouting the historic preservation code. I really don't see where that's. I would think the other one would be more important, and the city would be a lot more dogged about pursuing these matters than the fact that my grass is 9 inches, and would fine me $150, even though my lawn is a swamp and I can't run a lawnmower through it. But the city is unyielding in its prosecution of the issue of my 9-inch grass. But these things can sit and linger for years, and the best we can do is possibly send a letter at some point asking them nicely to do something.
Okay, I hear your point.
Thank you.
But I beg to differ. That's not what all we can do.
No, sorry.
And I think we are trying to get the wheels turning on a proper escalation and hopefully de-escalation of communications that get what we want. And what we want is the restoration of historic materials. And if that doesn't happen, then we have other things we can do. But I agree historically. I mean, Willow Terrace is a fantastic example that this has been going on for over, 3-4 years now. And that is not okay.
Yeah, and I hear you loud and clear. I do think that we should take this list and work with Anna and send notices, start working with these people. And they may not sit well with this group, but I'll tell you, the city gets a lot more complaints from people driving by unmowed lawn than they do from somebody noticing that the railing is missing. Very few people are gonna drive by this property and be like, oh my gosh, the door is different and that railing's missing. But I'll tell you, the city gets reports on, or neighbor complaints on grass a lot.
There's also a category for neighbor complaints on grass. There is no category for historic preservation or even building permit violations. So
Yeah,
I think that's something we can talk about.
Yeah,
That's something that we can certainly work with IT to see if that, we add that option in the report. I just want to point also to Bernard's comment regarding Title VI of our Bloomington Municipal Code. You know, it has a very prescribed path for violations. It says specifically what happens. With Title VIII, historic preservation, it does not. So that is the difference. We also have code compliance officers that are in the neighborhoods that are looking specifically for Title VI violations as opposed to a crew looking for Title VIII. So there is some difference.
Yeah, we even took a grass case up to the Court of Appeals in 2014, so.
Wow.
I do appreciate all of that, but this is what we know. It's not like, you know, there's not a list, and there's not a box, and there are not people. These are things that we have identified already.
But the thing we haven't, the piece of the puzzle we don't have, and I think this is your point, is okay, we've identified these. How do we go forward? In other cases, like grass, there's a prescribed way that you go forward, and we are working that out right now.
But the devil is always in the discretion. I'm sorry, details.
So I have a question about the one that we were talking about, 1300.
1300.
This, as far as I can tell, has an approved C of A for this work.
Yeah, that was
And that was approved in August.
Yeah.
And they have a year to complete a C of A. So
That's
they're not out of
So
compliance.
that was my question. Okay, so that,
Okay.
Right.
So they're not out of compliance. You can't send them a letter.
Well, I think we can certainly send them a letter and ask what their status is, because we haven't had any communication. I don't know that we send a letter and say, hey, you're in violation. but I
Also,
think
this
we
was
can-
conditional on staff approval of the new railing and doors.
So it sounds like
What does that-
we
what
need
does
to
that have to
contact
do
them.
with it?
So that's contact them.
So, but they do have a COA,
Yeah.
and they've got a year.
Yeah, so they're
They're
in my-
okay.
In my world, they're in compliance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
but-
until
yeah.
they don't have something, but we can say,
We can say,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
until X day
We
to
notice-
do this.
Yeah, we notice progress hasn't been made, tell us your plans,
Mhm.
that's totally fine.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so moving on to some of these new ones. 906 West 6th Street. More than removal of a chimney, that was what I was told about. There was also removal of a door and some windows. There's not been a building permit for any of those. Also, the property owner, it looks like, maybe being delisted from the state of Indiana as a business.
What does that mean?
Shoot. The LLC status might be being revoked. So I did manage to find a property owner address, which 2 notices of violation had been sent to, but I had not heard back from them about that. So that is outstanding violation, and additionally, the building department was not aware, so.
Did they say that they were going to do anything?
Yeah, they said that they were going to post notice on the building.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah.
Progress.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And when was that?
I had a call with the building department yesterday. Although they're working on a slightly different timeline, so. This has been out there for us.
Is that on the corner?
Yes. You familiar with the building? Yeah. Okay. Subsequently, last month, I received 2 new complaints. Both of these people have gotten back to me after I sent them notices of violation. In the second case, 702 West Kirkwood, the property owner had asked me if they could send in an application this week. I said yes. I have not received one yet. So there you go.
What was that violation for?
This one was for replacement of
Of the
front-facing
doors and-
windows, right?
Okay.
The previous one, 608 West 8th, was replacement of 2 screen doors.
Okay. Is that what we got?
I'm gonna run through some pictures as well if you'd like to see them. So these are some of our W's, if you will. 620 South Valentine, North Valentine? South Valentine. Stucco on the columns restored. Also restoration of columns at, I have to go back, but this is in Greater Prospect Hill, I believe. Yes, 621B West 4th Street, restoration of removed columns on a side porch. This one here is from last year. 630 West 6th Street, where a side door had been removed and vertical siding had been installed. Those changes have been undone. And
Looks so much nicer.
bottom here, what do you call that mansion? Kirkwood Manor Historic Building. There were a couple of signs that were not in compliance that have been removed. And I've since heard back from the Parlor Donut franchisee, who is going to submit a request for new signage. So at some point we may have the chance to review that. As for some of the outstanding violations here, on the right, 1300 East 1st Street, they have a COA, good for a year. Bottom left, you can see the banana sign down here. This was one that was not applied for. So they're gonna need approval for that. And then the 2 outstanding violations in the near west side. You can't see the chimney. Well, obviously you can't see the chimney because it's gone. It's not obvious where the chimney was, but you can see missing doors. 741 West Kirkwood.
So the middle picture is of where they had a door, question mark? What's the middle?
With this
picture
middle
pic?
one, they had a different window, which they removed, installed a new window with a transom light directly above it. Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And that's the Second Street property on the right where the railing was removed and
Right.
the door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I don't have a picture of the screened parking area on the rear. It's screened. There's a fence. Not much to see. Also, next week at the Monroe County History Center, on Thursday at 4 p.m., going to be the first meeting of the Historic District Subcommittee. So among the things that are going to be discussed, in addition to what is the subcommittee and what are we going to be doing, there are going to be the proposed Maple Heights Historic District guidelines. So anybody who's interested in that, I would encourage attending.
And you sent out a draft?
Yes.
Or the
I sent
ones
out
we're
the
looking
draft.
to get
Mhm.
approved.
That's going to be next Thursday, 4 p.m. at the History Center.
They're gonna be the first Thursday of every month at
Mhm.
4 p.m. at the Monroe County History Center.
So the people that I included in the email from the commission, so that's in addition to the public notice, and people with City of Bloomington are the people who had expressed interest in being involved in the subcommittee. If there's anybody who did not receive that email who would like to receive it, you can let me know and I can forward it to you.
I'd like.
Okay. Do I have a pen on?
Am I
Could-
in it?
Yes. I believe you had expressed interest.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we have the comments?
Mm-hmm.
Comments? I think we got some procedures to work through.
Mhm.
I am looking much forward to working with Hand and Legal to get our reporting mechanism and our notice of violation mechanisms in place.
Yeah, I just sent Anna Holmes, who couldn't be here tonight because she had that kind of funeral, but I just sent her an email and said, we need to start sending some letters out, so to get with Noah, and yeah, we'll definitely get that done.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
that's all we got.
So if we can meet to discuss that sometime next week, that would be great. I'll talk with Anna when she gets back to town.
And if you want to drag me into that, just give me a shout.
I will say both Anna's and Margie have been incredibly helpful with this.
Good, thank you. All right,
Public.
any public comment? You guys want to comment? I will call us adjourned then. Thank you for coming.